We only have one viewer.
Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. Thank you all for joining us today for our LinkedIn and YouTube live session around soft skills, hosted by Glion Institute for Higher Education. So my name is Mark O'Brien. I am one of the directors of student recruitment here at Glion, and delighted to be with you to introduce our event today. Before I hand over to our wonderful panel, who are going to give us more information and a wonderful talk on soft skills and the importance of soft skills in today's environment. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping points. Please do ask questions. You can ask questions in the comment box, and we'll have some time at the end for questions. You have obviously the option to watch us on LinkedIn or on our Glion YouTube live channel. So today we're going to, as I said, talk about soft skills for the new world, a conversation with some of our fabulous master students and Charles Bennett. And this is an area obviously we hear a lot about. Our students talk a lot about it. Our employers talk a lot about the importance of soft skills and how they're becoming even more so important in today's environment. So today's session will be a conversation between some of our students and Charles, and I'll let them introduce themselves afterwards, as well as a question and answer session at the end. We have students who are based, we have Raya, who is based in Switzerland, a Masters of Hospitality, Entrepreneurship and Innovation student. We have then Victoria, who's a Masters of Hospitality, Real Estate, Hospitality and Finance student based in London. And then, of course, we have Charles Bennett. Charles is a business success coach who's worked with many students and professionals all over the world. But I'll let them give a more in-depth introduction to themselves. We are having a little bit of technical issues here and there, so if any of us do drop off at any point, don't worry. We'll come back on, the show will go on. But for the moment, I'm going to hand over to our panel, Charles, Victoria and Raya.
Thank you so much, Mark. So I'm Charles Bennett. I'm a business success coach, which maybe some of you may wonder what that means. It really means I walk through the path with my clients in terms of finding where they want to go, where they want their career to go. And I've been blessed to have been working here in France for the past 12 years, where indeed I work with companies, leaders of industry, and of course, students who are trying to understand the value of soft skills, especially now soft skills post-pandemic.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria. I'm from France. I currently study, as Mark said, a Master in Finance, Real Estate and Hotel Development on the Glion campus in London. I have few experience in the hospitality industry. Actually, I only did one internship at Intercontinental Hotel Group last year, and previously I had a bachelor in business and I worked more in retail.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raya and I come from Jordan. I hold a BBA in Hospitality and Luxury Brand Management, and I'm currently pursuing my Master's in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. I lived in Hong Kong, and during the pandemic, I lived over 3 continents. I lived in Asia and the Middle East and in Europe. So I really know the importance of soft skills in a post-pandemic world, and I'm ready to explore that further with you today.
Right. Should we start the conversation with you, Charles? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your experience? I know we all want to hear your experience at Cartier and the business coach life.
Absolutely. Well, I'm working at Cartier, but just to make sure it's clear, so I did live in Toronto, which is where I started my career at Cartier. And then I navigated to come to France, where my dream was to launch a career in luxury goods, which I was really, really excited about. Until one day, I realized that I wasn't happy anymore. I wasn't feeling excited I'd wake up every morning to go to work, and I felt that I had a calling that was a little bit bigger. So hence, I ended up finding myself a coach in the UK who was really brilliant because he made me understand what my potential was. The fact that I had a lot more to offer and that I wasn't really optimizing it. And through a lot of tearful moments, through a lot of self-discovery, and obviously talking to a lot of people, I started to realize that the coaching life was something that I felt I could bring and assist other people to get to the point that I was, the place of feeling and realizing what my true potential was. And today, I think the greatest thing about working as a success coach is that I'm really able to assist people to understand the value of how soft skills can be helpful in terms of making them become more human, being able to know how to connect with other people in a way that is more that is less about virtual. Because what I've realized is that we live in the virtual world that has taken us over, but we're not connecting with each other. And the fact is, soft skills is not just about academic. It's truly about understanding the values of empathy, the values of being curious. It's not something that's really something you can see on paper, but it's something that goes a bit deeper than that. So it's not something you could just teach someone. I think soft skills has to do with life skills. How can you bring forward your best self in a life that's not always transparent, where there's things that we don't always understand immediately? I don't know how you all feel about that, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think, you know, the what you're saying there about obviously the importance of soft skills and I guess the environment we're in right now, which is that an environment that is and has been for the last while quite virtual, and how do you actually build those soft skills and engage in them? I think that the personal relationships and the ability to actually engage with each other is so important in developing, you know, the relationships, but also our careers and growing in our careers. And it's been really challenging for a lot of people over the last year to be able to grow those, I guess, grow those skills and actually be able to build relationships with each other. I know that Victoria and Raya, some of the reasons why I know you've come to study a master's program and come back to somewhere like Glion is for Raya, who had been with us before, is to actually to, I guess, develop those soft skills further and to go beyond just learning purely a degree or purely a subject. So maybe one of you want to touch off, I guess, some of the reasons why you have decided to come back and do a master's and develop those skills.
For sure, I agree with you. I think anyone can have access to the digital world and learn how to use the software. But I really think soft skills are what will differentiate you in your life. Even if for the short term you will succeed through the digital world and through digital solutions, at the end of the day, the only thing that will make you stand out from others is your soft skills. And no, they don't necessarily have to be something you're born with and then you just have to accept the fact that you don't have them. It doesn't work that way. I think anyone can develop soft skills. And personally, I'm the biggest example of that. I arrived to Glion with no soft skills whatsoever. And now I believe to hold a great deal of soft skills that no amount of technology can overstep.
Absolutely. I would have to not only agree with you, but I feel that that's what I've observed. I think sometimes the soft skills we gain is through falling, through failure, through situations that don't always work out. I mean, the experience that I've had as a person having worked in France, where I had many difficult situations where, you know, the people in my workplace didn't like me because they saw me as a threat. They thought that I was too enthusiastic, that I had too much ambition. And so that took a long time because I would keep questioning myself, what is wrong with me? And in the end, through those moments of questioning myself, I started to realize that it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with them. And through the moments of being in despair is where you really grow, and you realize that you will be able to grow and be able to achieve through making a path, and maybe even deciding things that are not really something that are in your concentration. Me, for example, I was in sales most of my life. I didn't think that I would eventually be equipped to coach other people in their lives. Why? Because I thought, did I have enough life experience to do that? In the end, through the experience of all that I had, all the different ins and outs, having lived in France, having lived in the UK, having lived in Canada, it made me realize that I did have an experience, a life experience, that I could also assist other people who question themselves, who question their values and what they could potentially do, and to bring them to the next stage so that they can have more confidence in their own capacities.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what you're saying, Charles. And obviously, so I introduced myself as a master's student, but I'm actually, I started working part-time for Cushman and Wakefield as an analyst since last week. So I do feel that when you're challenged, you do develop your soft skill exponentially. Right now, what I'm challenged with is obviously my organizational adaptability skills. That it's a great thing because they are among the top skills that are really important to demonstrate nowadays in the workplace. But reconciling work and study can be very difficult, and I know I'm not the only student or working person to feel that way. And that brings me to work about work-life balance and how difficult, especially right now, it's being for everyone working or studying and trying to juggle with all the assignment, the deadline, the stress. And I do feel that most of us don't realize how much soft skills we already have, because we don't really reflect on what we do have. We usually reflect on what we don't. But I do think we do thrive in situations like yours when you arrive in France, when it's a difficult time. You don't realize everything that you have, but you use it every day.
Victoria, I completely agree with you. Before I worked and studied at the same time, I thought I had zero skills in time management. And then when I started doing it, I realized that I'm actually so good at it, and all I had to do was try it out. And I really enjoyed that challenge of working and studying and having a full schedule. I think it really changed my life and made me grow as an individual. So I agree with you completely on that.
No, and definitely, I think that everyone, when they feel underwater, my advice is always the following. Yeah, you should take a break, take a step back, breathe, do something you enjoy, and start a bit later when you're actually refreshed and you can take some perspective over things. And it's important to acknowledge that no matter how skilled or hardworking you are, everyone is experiencing this kind of situation. But although everyone is experiencing the same, it doesn't mean that we all cope the same way. We are all unique. So I guess the one piece of advice I really wanted to bring today that really worked for me is that when you look at your career or your studies, I see it as a mountain. Usually you always look at the top, at whatever you want to achieve or where are your goals, and you kind of focus on the top of the mountain, but you're already in the middle of it. You already achieved so many things. I mean, right now, my example is that a few years ago, I could barely speak English. I wasn't able to speak about hospitality at all. And now today, when I get stressed or when I feel low, I look back and I'm like, okay, I still achieved that. I passed my bachelor. I did this or that thing. And I think this really helps you try to be more positive about the way forward and get confidence with yourself.
Exactly. And you don't always just focus on the top of the mountain. You need to have fun along the way, because this journey is your life. And I truly believe that fear and fun cannot coexist. So as long as you're having fun, everything will unfold for the best.
And I'd like to piggyback for what you were saying, Lori. Sorry, Mark, just to say the fact that we should sometimes look and see the successes we've had and itemize them like a grocery list, and go back and use that as leverage to realize that we can go after and attain the things we want to do. By realizing the successes we've had, we'll realize internally that we already are successful. Sorry, Mark.
No, you're fine. I thought we'd lost you there for a moment. I just wanted to touch off one of the points that Victoria and Ray made around, realizing the skills and realizing the soft skills that they did have or that they didn't realize have during this particular time. I mean, when you think about it over the last year, I mean, what areas have you really kind of, I guess, come to, develop further and realize that you are actually quite strong? And I mean, what skills have you had to develop, and what has really benefited you over the last year?
Are you asking me?
So any of you, in general, I think all of you. Yes.
Well, if I can say, I think my big skill that I realized in sort of soft skills was my sense of resilience. I mean, I remember the first few months of the pandemic. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know when I was going to see my family again. I realized I had to accept the unknown, which was extremely hard because I'm a person that has a sense of wanting to control the variables. And I believe that being resilient by realizing that I was vulnerable, that if I had to cry one day because I was sad and felt alone, that it was okay. And I gave myself permission to be vulnerable. The fact that I didn't always have to be when somebody said, "Hey, how you doing?" and saying, "I'm fine," when it wasn't true. So I learned to accept that sense of being vulnerable and the fact that I wasn't in a perfect situation, that I had to accept knowing that I couldn't control the future and that it wasn't in my hands.
Just Charles, I couldn't agree more on that point, because personally, I used to always think of excuses before, like for my teachers, for my friends, for my boss. But after the pandemic, I learned that it's okay to just say, I'm mentally tired, I'm not available, I want time to myself. And you don't always need to give people an excuse. You can just simply say, I need this time to myself. No, like, I'm not in for this plan, I'm not in for this project. And I think that this is the best advice I can give people post pandemic, is it's okay to say no when you feel like you're tired.
Absolutely. With no justification as well, because sometimes we always feel, well, I can't see you tomorrow, because you can actually say today at this time of your life, it's just not possible, and leave it there.
Exactly.
And I think that's some of the best advice I always got as I got older. The fact, you do not have to justify for what you want for yourself. You do not have to explain why you're leaving a dinner party early. You are allowed to say, thank you so much. It was a lovely evening. And it's giving yourself the power to state what you want and making that a priority.
And setting your boundaries with your boss, with your colleagues, with everybody. I think the boundary you set for yourself is the tone that you set, important to say no without justifying.
But I do feel we are taking a huge step with COVID towards more flexibility in work, toward thinking more about work, mental health, work-life balance. I think that every company now has understood the needs and what actual pressure their employees are under. So it's even more okay now, and we should continue pushing in that way.
Absolutely. I think companies now, post-COVID, once this goes into another phase, I think that leaders of industry need to show more empathy towards their team members. And I was discussing that yesterday, where I think leaders, managers, directors have to make a point of taking the phone and calling their team and trying to show more personalized approaches and giving more valid, I would say, compliments for good work. Because I often feel that we're in industries where everybody treats other robot, but nobody's giving, saying, hey, John, that was really good. You did really well with that project. The team is really happy with the effort you did. It's giving them that sort of approbation, saying, you know what, you're doing really well. And I think that that's the place we need to go to, being more personalized in our communication and making people feel that they're valued.
I do want recognition.
Yeah, exactly. I had an example of this in my class. Like, usually after a presentation, like, obviously you say, oh, well done to your friends, but someone in my class always after a presentation send me a message like, oh, you did very good today, I really like this, and kind of this positive and uplifting comments. At the beginning, I was shocked, because I've been presenting stuff for my academic work for 4 more years, and this never happened. And I think everyone should encourage and try to get out of their comfort zone in uplifting each other, because it's very important. And the impact it had on me is like, okay, I did good this time, I can do better next time. But I felt empowered by this small gesture.
Absolutely. And I think you could even go further. I often encourage my students to write a little card with little words on a card to someone where you really felt that they did something really great, saying, thank you so much for your commitment with on this project. I really appreciate it. imagine how someone will feel in an organization when they get a handwritten letter or note saying, thank you. It's such a simple gesture, but it can make such a difference and impact and create a synergy within a team.
Yeah, for sure. It creates a healthy psychological workplace. And I think the only way people can thrive is if they're mentally accepted and healthy, and everything else comes secondary. So when you feel like you're welcome somewhere, you naturally start doing better. You naturally start encouraging others, and the reward and recognition and reinforcement is so important, really.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how I feel. So I think that moving forward, as we're going into the soft skills post-pandemic, I believe that people are going to start taking stock, because what I've seen is many people are starting to make different decisions. They're starting to realize that time goes by very quickly, and that the decisions we make on a daily basis can impact our long-term vision of our future. And in order to be in control of that, we have to make a plan. And often what I tell my students and my clients is that you need to make a timeline of where you want to be in 2 to 3 years. What it means is that even if you deviate a bit, if you make the plan and put it on paper, at least you know you have something to go by. And then the next step is to be able to communicate that to someone who is a confidant that you can share those plans with. And that's how you move forward your vision of getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just going back on soft skills post-pandemic, I do think so. I just went through interviews to get a new job and all of that, and I just wanted to touch on that because I feel that there would be a lot of students interested in this on the line. I do feel that post-pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs, so obviously finding a job on the market isn't the easiest thing to do. But what's going to differentiate yourself, although everyone is very skilled, have degrees and practical knowledge, what differentiates yourself is your character, your soft skill, how good you are at adaptable organization, how good you are with talking with people. Can you get out of your comfort zone and network on the spot with someone you are not sure what he's speaking with, but you're adaptable in that sense. So that's something I think every student should look at before they start applying for a job. What soft skill do I need for that job, and how do I practice them?
For sure.
Absolutely.
And like almost every day when I'm sitting with people, they complain about how the job market is so limited, how there's no jobs. And I realized that this type of energy was affecting me. So I decided that I do not want to sit in conversations that have a low vibe anymore. Because the more you spend time around people who keep complaining about the job market, the more energy you send out that you're not ready to receive a new job. So I really think like distancing yourself away from negativity and not believing these stories that the job market is so limited will really help you find a job, because if you look for a job, you will find a job even in such times. So I decided to distance myself from all the negativity and all people's complaining about a post-pandemic world, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you're willing to look for it. Victoria, I'm sure you agree, because you've also found a job in such a difficult, turbulent time, because you know that you put the effort in to find it and you were rewarded for that.
Yeah, and I do think everyone has a very negative vision of the hospitality employment right now, but I don't really share it in the sense that, yes, there was a lot of furlough, and that's very sad, but everything is moving so fast right now, way more than it used to. So there is a lot of opportunity, and of course, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And you're completely right on the fact that, I mean, if you believe it, it's going to happen. Like, just put the work that's needed in it and it will work for sure.
And I think there's something to be said about creating your own network, meaning that there are people out there that you don't know yet that could advance your goals, but you need to find them and you need to create the link. And oftentimes people say, well, I sent out 30 LinkedIn invitations and I sent out 30 CVs online. I don't understand why no one called me. And I often say, did you call them? Did you write a letter? Did you, or they get rejected from a role? And I said, okay, but did you ask the question, what were they looking for, to dig deeper, maybe to find out what is it you need to work on for your next interview. So it's always going, instead of being in a victim mode, being in a more proactive mode, saying, I'm going to control, and I'm going to go after the opportunities, and I'm going to make the opportunities, because at the end of the day, people don't know how great you are until you show them how great you are. You have to put yourself out there in different situations so that people can know what you're bringing to the table.
For sure, I actually physically once went to an employer because they were not replying, because I just happened to be in the area, and I just popped in to say hello, and it was so appreciated, and everyone saw this as a crazy gesture, but at the end of the day, I got what I wanted. So let it be crazy, you just have to go after what you want, and the employer will see how determined you are, even if it means sending millions and millions of emails until you actually get the chance to prove yourself. It's rewarding, and I'm willing to do it over and over again.
That's a true success, yeah.
Skill. Like, that's a very good skill you have, that you can go to someone and just talk. Not everyone is able to do this, but again, everyone is different. But that's very good to be proactive. I think it's something that's definitely really important. But proactive, not in, I need something from you and that's why I'm doing it, but in a genuine way, is going to be really important, because that human connection that's going to be able to work again post COVID-19 restriction, obviously, is going to be what everyone is looking for: genuine connection with genuinely interested people.
Exactly.
And I believe that now that we're going into post-pandemic world where things are slowly going to get better, I think people are going to be much more mentally equipped and ready to sustain anything, because we've gone through some of the toughest times ever. And I think because of that, we can only be better. All the circumstances that are going to come forward, we're ready to take them on because we're resilient, because we've taken time to really look and reflect on who we are. And even if we've changed direction, maybe whether it's career or what have you, or if we've decided to get more training, it just means that we're ready to take on a new dimension.
Yeah, no, that's very true. COVID-19 has definitely reshaped the way we are going to connect with each other. That's crazy.
Yeah,
so I'm getting the first question from the audience. Should we start with the question now? You want?
Sure.
So the first one is, do you think the after COVID workforce will be more skilled?
Should I go ahead and answer that?
Yeah. Whoever wants to start.
I think yes, because employers are really looking for people who can actually rescue their business, and they're looking for a lifeline. And I don't think employers can afford to just hire somebody for the sake of hiring them. So I think that the recruitment process is going to be much more specific, because you're really you're investing in an employee now. You're not just hiring an employee. So it's important that they share your vision and they want to see the success of your business just as much as you do.
Yeah, I would concur with that. And I also can go further. I think that some future employers may even ask the question, what was the biggest element you learned through the COVID situation? I think that may be a question where they'll really get the sense of the core of who's in front of them. If someone goes and says, you know what, I learned a lot, I did training. If someone says, I wrote a book, I'm just giving examples. But I think if it shows an introspection that the person really took the time to reflect on becoming better, I think that that's going to bring a great deal of value for them to be able to secure a position, because it separates them from all the other candidates.
Yeah, no, I do concur with what you both said. And with one added thing is that I think, first of all, we should all prepare for that question for the interview. What did you do during COVID-19? What did it bring you, for sure? And I think a lot of people, either who were furloughed or stuck at home, did rethink the way they lived and wanted to learn more, because they were so in their house not doing anything. And I have a lot of friends, and I did myself. We did a few online classes about stuff that we were interested in, but we never had time to go in depth in. And that's something that continues. Now I know new ways of learning that I'm sure I will continue post-COVID-19. So the second question we have, so what sorts of skills are the employers looking for?
Good question.
Oh,
You want to go? I mean, if I was going to say what I think employers are looking for even today, I think they're looking for people who show empathy, that show resilience, who have a vision for the future that's positive. Because I think often when people go for job interviews, they seek people that have positivity. And I think now that we're going through time, we went through times that were quite difficult. When you bring your positive face to an interview, people sense that in your vocabulary, in your energy, in how you hold yourself up. And I think moving forward, as we will go through potentially in the future through challenging times, they need people that come on board with those skills, the soft skills, the way of seeing that the world is right and that we can succumb anything.
Yeah, I do agree on positivity. I think it's something you should always be an optimist. You don't want to bring down the mood of your team. But additionally, what my personal experience was, adaptability, organization, always an important thing. Adaptability even more so now that you start working remote and you don't have anyone to hold your hands on the side of the table and help you with everything. That's definitely important. For younger working people, I would say being autonomous and proactive in what you do, also very important. Raya, do you want to add anything else? You're on mute, I think.
Mm. Oh. Well, I'll add to the point. I think you're not just autonomous that's becoming really important, but it's also the fact of wanting to bring all of the other things and experiences. Because I think what often happens when people go to job interviews, they forget all their previous experiences that they've attained. So even if you worked at McDonald's or even if you've done other things, all of those experiences have led you to the place you are today. So that when you're going to your interview, you should always be able to know those different challenges and stories that you have that can show to your employer that you have leadership, that you're able to deal, you're a problem solver, that you're a person that's enthusiastic. Those are all things that are part of your story and a part of your DNA. So I believe that when you do go to interviews, those are the things that those employers are looking for.
Yeah, I definitely think that it just shows on your face if you're a positive person or not. Like especially the way you sit down, the way you cross your arms, the way you position your shoulders. It shows what you're open to. It shows the respect you have towards the other person. And I think that facial expressions are so important in interviews, probably the most important. And you can just tell a positive face from a negative face. And also wordplay, the way you use words. Like instead of I cannot, it took me time, like you just change the way you use your words. Or instead of saying my weakness is, you say the areas I'm less strengthful at. So I think it's all about wordplay and the way you show your positivity.
Talking
That's
about
also,
positivity. Sorry, no, go ahead. I thought
I was just gonna add, Laura, and what I think you would understand in Paris or in France, it's very common to use c'est pas possible, c'est on peut pas. And oftentimes I coach my French clients that we have to eliminate that the whole aspect of c'est pas, it's something that you have to get rid of, because when you start using c'est pas possible all the time, internally you're going to believe it's not possible. Imagine if you said it is possible, and automatically the results change. And automatically everything that you go after and try to do ends up being a reality.
Yeah, I think in Arabic we have a very beautiful word. I'm sure you all know it. It's inshallah. It's basically you don't say yes, you don't say no. You say I hope. And I think it's a very beautiful word and it gives so much hope. Like if you see something is not possible, you say inshallah. It means like let's leave it to God or whatever you believe in, and it's really makes a difference than saying c'est pas possible.
Ouais, exactement. Voilà.
This directly links with the next question we have, actually, which is, you mentioned positivity a few times. How does one keep positive in these times?
What I do oftentimes, and this is my personal thing, I try to look up different sayings that are positive words that that sort of give me the energy to believe that I can do something. I listen to music, gospel music every morning. And what I think is quite valuable or in that is to surround myself with positive people that have the same mindset about the world. And I'm not trying to say, oh my God, you should never be, you're being too selective. But in the end of the day, life is challenging. It's important to fuel yourself being around people who see things as being possible. And then you speak a language where you actually can make things happen.
Yeah, I tend to always think, okay, it could be worse. Let's make a list of what's good. And then I realize the list is really, really long. And I'm like, okay, so I'm fine. We can continue. And we pass through something very difficult that you learn through. Yeah, you probably in the next 100 years, the people who are going to be born now are not going to, hopefully, not going to pass through what we have. So it's an experience that we are going to learn a lot from, and we should always look, it's the end of the tunnel now. It's going to end soon. So be positive about the aftermath of all of this.
Absolutely. And I think in some ways it's weird, but I think we should also be thankful for the time that we had through this pandemic, because it's time that we'll never have again, where we really did, that we had to do a sort of a reset, where the clock stopped and we actually had to all start from zero and restart. So it gives us, I think I look at it as giving us a fresh start to do better.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about how you perceive it. It's your perception of things, and you can choose to perceive it as a good thing or a bad thing, and that you shape your own reality.
Then I have a question for me. Victoria, can you tell us how your soft skills help you secure a new job? How did I secure a new job? I think my ability to communicate with people, and my first interview was actually with now who is my current boss, and it was a very open conversation. There was no question, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? I mean, very common question to always prepare, but I feel that my job requires me to network with a lot of people, because I work more in development and investor relations. So something that my boss was really keen to know is she gonna be able to be liked by people, to communicate an idea very well, not be shy to present in front of people. And obviously, I think adaptable was another very big one, because he was asking me to start working part-time. So he wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay with it. It wasn't going to impact on my mental health, that I would still get time off and all of this. So yes, definitely communication, adaptability were the strongest one, I would say.
Yeah, I think for sure employers are venturing away from the traditional interview questions, which are no longer relevant. From the last 6 job interviews I had, nobody asked me what are your strengths and weaknesses. Nobody asked me how to deal with a customer. It was all very conversational. And I think what the employer wants to do is study you on a personal level and not on a career level, because empathy is the most important thing in a post-pandemic world.
Yeah. You really have to show who you are in an interview.
Mm-hmm.
I did a practice one that with a HR professional not long ago. His feedback for me was really good. I mean, it was a very professional interview, but I don't know who you are. And the 2 first questions of the interview were actually can you tell me about yourself? I spent 10 minutes talking about myself, and then second question, big blank, can you tell me about yourself? Again, no explanation. So yeah, I think interviewers are really looking to know your personality, how different yourself, your uniqueness, what can you bring to the team.
Absolutely.
Should we move to the last question? How can we build a network remotely? That's a good one.
That's a great question. If I can answer, I think remotely obviously is not always easy, but I believe that there are, whether it's in your personal network, whether it's be on Instagram, whether it be on LinkedIn, there are opportunities that we have on many levels to be able to connect with other people. And it's not just through sending invitations, but maybe sending a few words and reconnecting. And I often tell my students, for example, if you see someone who you believe you want to connect with, research the person, find out a bit more about what their achievements are, and connect on that level. It can be something like I said, you read an article in The Guardian that someone became a director of hospitality for a large group, and you can reach out and write a little note saying, hey, congratulations, I saw you got that role. I'd love to hear a bit more about it. People love to hear that you're interested in them, that you have a curiosity. And I think by showing that curiosity that's authentic, it opens the channels to so many things.
Yeah, and I definitely think building a network online is easier than building a physical network. First of all, because you can not pretend to be someone you're not, but you can, like, you don't need to show that you're a shy person when it's happening online. So you can be whoever you want to be online, and it's easier to start conversations than it is to walking up to a person in a dinner. So texting someone on LinkedIn or emailing them is so much easier than physical networking. So I think that the sky is the limit with online networking, really.
And also the fact that possibilities are endless now with online networking. I mean, anyone that you research a little bit and write the right message to on LinkedIn will answer you.
Exactly.
Like, really, if you obviously don't write a generic message that has no empathy and where you don't put your personality in it, but I do believe that everyone, as Charles was saying, like when people are interested in them, and is always good to share what you learn, especially in the hospitality industry. I've never been more impressed by an industry that everyone is so keen to teach you what they know. I mean, I arrived from business background into IHT, not knowing what the main KPIs like ADR, RevPAR are. And everyone is coming to me, trying to help me, make me understand. So people are very, very keen to do that. So just let them do and send the right messages, and it will work.
Great. Well, just to jump back in there, I would say we're just out of time, but first of all, I want to thank all three of you. It's been really insightful, and I think we've definitely learned a lot from the conversation around sort of soft skills and the importance of it, and how it's helped both you, Raya, and Victoria get to where you are, and Charles, of course, in your career as well, and the coaching you do. I want to thank everyone for attending. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues with our LinkedIn Live. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn now, you are watching the recording. But you can still ask questions as part of the group and the conversation, and we'll definitely get back to you. I'm sure Raya, Victoria, and Charles will be happy to get back to some questions we have on the group afterwards. And of course, on the LinkedIn or on the YouTube as well, you can still make comments and ask questions. I want to thank you, Charles, Raya, and Victoria, for your time. I know it's a bit busy at the moment. But Anthony, you guys want any last comments or any last notes you guys want to make before we close?
Thank you so much for putting this together. I learned so much, really.
Yes, same. I think we don't speak about this enough, and it was great to get the opportunity to brainstorm with everyone.
And I wanted to say that no matter what, we are all successes, and that once we understand that we can achieve everything. And I just want to say one little quote before I go. There's a quote that I read from Carl Gustav Jung that said, "I'm not what happened to me, I'm what I chose to become."
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's a great quote to finish on. So thank you all, and thank you all for joining, and look forward to continuing the conversation in the comments. Have a good day.
Take care.